Hey guys, so some really quick context to this video. Rudy understands e-collar, understands basic obedience, understands how to follow his handler, is highly proofed in high stress situations, but he has a history of pretty intense dog aggression, and he can be weird with people too. And I only mention that because it just shows he has some big insecurities in general. Now, he's been home for a while and his owners have been doing an amazing job at keeping everything up. He's doing great, except sometimes when that window of pressure gets really, really tight, and depending on the other dog's attitude, he's still tough to manage sometimes. Now, I'm not expecting perfection, and it is important for my clients to know how to physically handle their dogs when they do react. And we're in the city, so we're bound to come across high pressure situations quite regularly. However, what are some things that we can do with a dog that's already trained to continue to try to close the gap, to not just train the dog and move on, but build more context and confidence in the situation that they're in? So that's what this video is about. It shows some choreography to do when you pass by dogs. And even, I still want everybody bubbling out if they can. It's so important to show your dog that you're walking and you move them away and then you move them back. That's still really important, but you can still do some of these turns at a greater distance than what's in the video, okay? So that's really important to note, because I don't want you just passing by a dog and keep going. Pass by a dog and then turn and follow the dog, and then turn again and follow the dog, okay? Turn when the dog is coming towards you. So anyway, it goes over some of this stuff as well as another exercise to utilize. You could do out, or you could do motivational moving back to gain focus with your dog using food, or a calm good job. One or the other. So give you those options. You've got that context. This dog earlier had just seen another husky. It's one of his triggers, and he was corrected around 40 on e-collar before he reacted. Normally low levels snap him right out of it on e-collar. He kind of is like, oh, what is that dog gonna do? Low level tap, and he's like, never mind, I follow my handler. But certain dogs still rub him the wrong way. Shocker, huskies are one of them. So when we figured that out, we have a lot of huskies in this area that are walking every morning at the park. So when we figured that out, went right to higher levels for staring at those particular dogs. And that happened to happen right before this video as well, to another husky in the area. So just so you know the context of why he's doing so great with Sia right away, and I didn't use e-collar, is because he had just seen a husky arousal tap at a 40. No, you should not. Every dog is going to be different. A lot of dogs at home are not a 40 right from the get-go, and a lot are higher. There's a huge range, so keep that in mind. Go out there and play with your dog. And by play with your dog, I mean play around with all the stuff you're about to see. Play around with working around different types of dogs. Play around when dogs are behind fences, and learn more about how to communicate with your dog. I put the e-collar away because we had just seen that husky, and I just want to see how he does. Look at that glance, and then he glances away. Super happy to see that choice. So let's add a little more pressure if you're going to be in avoidance, because we had just seen that husky, and I just want to see how he does. Look at that glance, and then he glances away. Super happy to see that choice. So let's add a little more pressure if you're going to be in avoidance. And watch my arms here. I'm going to show you what I would do if he was alert. It's a two-handed pop, turn, and move. And so it's the element of surprise. It's mixing something up. You got a dog that's, no offense, Rudy, that's the dog I have, but viciously going after other dogs. You want to catch things early, be firm, show them that that's not okay with you. And so we use slip leash, prong collar, e-collar. There it is. There, you saw it. So this is using prong collar, that pop and move back. So I'm just going to show that again in slow motion. You'll see him get aroused, and then you can see my body language. So you're going to see him, here's the slow-mo. You see him looking. He does acknowledge me shifting back, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to go after that arousal with a pop, release, and then He turns, I turn, we keep moving, okay? It's the element of surprise, guys, and it does need to be firm. I'll be honest. This may look firm to some of you, but it's not compared to what, a lot of trainers will do. So I don't just yank and crank on dogs. That's what the old school thing is. A lot of people still do it. At the end of the day, you got to make your own decisions, what you're willing to do to get your dog to stop reacting and not willing to do. That was a minor firm correction compared to that old school yank and crank, just for clarity. Just want everybody to be on the same page of that and be clear about that. But it was firm. But he didn't he didn't make a peep. He just really got his attention, turned and moved with me nicely. And some of you might be like, well, how is that even useful? What does that do? It makes him prioritize what I want over what he wants or is concerned about. That's it. At the end of the day, that's it. It makes him prioritize what I want. And now, obviously, it's going to correct him for the arousal itself, but it's going to make him keep his eyes more on me than on the other dog. And okay, so those are the two things. Do we hope that it puts in some sort of long-term choice in his brain where he chooses to ignore rather than react? Sure, of course. But at the end of the day, it's about him prioritizing me. Sometimes that's the best you can get with some dogs, especially dogs that are high threshold. He's definitely a high threshold dog. Okay, we don't want to just correct and move on. That's training, but it's not changing the perception of the situation to where it can really improve. So let me show you our choreography. That's what this is. So let's say you're in a tight space where you can't bubble out, or you feel like you've got enough control over your dog where you can try this, okay? So this is where, as the dog is coming at me, I am going to make the choice to either try a turn with the dog on the outside, or I will turn into my dog if I sense any arousal or pushiness. I turn in towards my dog, and then I walk crazy slow and let the person walk by me, hopefully bubble out a little bit out and around me, if they can, if there's room. And if there is room, then you can bubble out a little bit too. But by having them walk up behind you, you're really making the dog have to trust you. And if they're craning their neck backwards, it's like, no, tap e-collar, keep moving with me. You're telling your dog not to worry about that. But here's the thing. You want to do another turn as the dog kind of flanks you, especially in a tight space. Okay, so whatever distance I'm comfortable with, then I'm going to move in or with my dog on the outside. We were so close to Sia, I moved in. And then I moved in again, right as Sia came up to flank us. I'm going to do that in slow motion. That way you can really see the choreography. So if you get really close to a dog, turn in towards the dog as long as it's not in front of you. So you get him out of the way because he was looking right at Sia. He was about to get aroused. I caught him right before him. Then really slow down as they move around you. And look, he was still trying to look. So as he flanked, I moved into him again, and then we kept going. Okay, the timing on the second turn is the one that can be dangerous because if you turn too soon, the dogs are eyeballing each other. But this choreography is so great. I want everybody with city dogs to learn it. It is crucial to function in your environment. And where I really started practicing this was on hikes where I didn't have anywhere to go. There was a mountain on one side and a cliff on the other, and I had to figure out how people could take their dogs on hikes. So you choose your distance that you're playing around with. This is in slow motion again. And then this time I felt like I was at enough distance and he was calm enough. I turned with him on the outside, gave him a chance to turn with me. He did beautifully without me needing e-collar. Then I really, really slowed down. Let the person go around me. Chris is unusually close because we're challenging him. But usually people give a little bit more space. But I do like to keep an eye out. I might let people know, to give space, to pull their dog in. Now, I almost did this too early and I slowed my step here because your whole thing is you don't want to turn your dog around and they be eyeball to eyeball with the other dog. That's what a disaster is. But anyway, hopefully that gives you some great things to go practice in an area that's got some breathability like this park. Okay, so that's one way of working on your dog's confidence and your handling skills and your timing, because it's so crucial to practice that. Here's the next thing. I want you guys, we got two things going on here. The out command and then just engaging your dog backwards. I would use something different, maybe here or something like that. I have worked with dogs where we use out for everything, but I really felt like working with Rudy and some of these recent dogs that have lower levels of energy, just to be honest, but they're still just as intense when it comes to reactivity. Out is really more of a, put your head down and back up. Here, or just come if you want to, come is totally fine, is just engaging your dog more. And I'm going to show you both methods here and you can decide what you like best. But I have to say, I will never present food to a dog that struggles with being aggressive if I'm not first seeing tons of calmer, better choices, avoidance behavior, and Rudy was a rock star. And so I just reminded him a little bit that out could also just mean move back, disengage. And when I felt like that wasn't clear, like I really just felt like it wasn't clear, but his let's go was so good, I switched gears to engagement with food. I really felt like he knows what out means, move away from me, move away from food. But it'd been a long time since we practiced it in this context. And I just felt like it wasn't landing with him. You can see me do this exercise with another dog, which I'm actually going to clip here at the end to see what it should look like. And Rudy, for me, I just felt like he wasn't getting it. So we switched it up. Switch to speed and engagement, which is always a risk because they could always take that arousal and turn it on the dog. But I felt like it was beneficial here. Sometimes, guys, you just got to go out and play with your dog's comfort level. But I'm going to repeat that one right there. We'd been doing this for a while, and he just seemed so stuck. And that's why I wanted to change it up. And it's because of this repetition right here that I was just like, no, we're going to switch it up. So this is the rep where I was like, man, you're just not, you're not really remembering this. You're not really getting it. Maybe it's just enough. And here's the thing, don't shy away from your dog being confused. Confusion is great for your dog to work through. It really is. It's very undervalued because we forget to teach our dogs how to problem solve. I'm not saying shy away from confusion, but I had been at this long enough with him where I wasn't seeing enough improvement. And so we just switched it up. Here's a very quick clip of what I think it should look like by now.
Hey, come on, how are you doing?
Good. Okay, so here I want to build some comfortability. I want him he's very much an Eeyore. That's just his personality. Everybody, he's not completely miserable. He doesn't really like to learn anything new. That is true. However, he's kind of just an Eeyore personality. So don't feel bad for him out there. It's kind of just part of it. But I like showing a dog that's not as driven because there's plenty of dogs we've worked with like him. So I decided to try to use some food redirection. So what I'm doing is trying to change his perception of the situation, okay? Nothing's going to make him happy about working at all. Like he just doesn't like to. But maybe I can do a few things to change his perception of the situation with working around another dog. That's my goal. So it's super simple. It is a rock back several steps and get him to take food. At first, he wouldn't look up, but he started to look at me more, check in with me more as this went on. See, look, I'm already getting it. Do you see that look up? Which I was super happy about. So again, you've got food in your hand, you're rocking backwards and then taking several steps back. Depending on the drive of the dog, I will take 10 steps back to really build drive. With him, a few steps was more than enough to get him to disengage. And then you turn and then turn and go back. So that's the pressure on, pressure off. That's really it. That's the key. Head towards the distraction and then I will bring you away. Then I'm going to put pressure on you again, and then I will take the pressure off of you. And hey, look, there's a piece of food at the end of it. So that's kind of the idea. This is a really great exercise to get your dog to pay a bit more attention to you, maybe not be so grumpy about having to work around things that they are scared of, nervous of, aggressive towards, whatever the case may be. But it really is about getting them to avoid things first. That's always first, and then getting them to look to you more. So this is that step, okay? So once you achieve the first step, you see your dog trying to avoid, but they're still having some little issues here and there, and you're trying to find something new to add in. This is really it. And I would just say here, or come. I don't like to say let's go because our let's go is kind of usually calmer. But at the end of the day, pick a word, stick to it. I was just saying come. I actually started using out and changed my mind. I didn't want to add out associated with faster paced food work. That was just a personal choice. That's all. And then I started doing come. So go out there and play on some techniques with your dogs. There are some dogs where this right here would ruin them. The food makes them crazy. They get aroused again, and then they will just react again by the next dog or the next walk. But a lot of dogs, once they really get in a good place of avoidance and you're just trying to build their confidence, this is a great technique. And you want to do it off a pathway where you're walking towards the dog and then you're taking pressure off the dog, kind of like the bubble outs. Now, when and how can you actually do this? You could do this on the other side of a fence if you have like a fenced-in part of your neighborhood as dogs walk by. You could do it at a park with a walkway, which honestly is a lot of parks. We even have an area like this at Griffith Park, which is on the way up to Griffith Observatory. If you live in LA, you're just doing it off a pathway, okay? Right here, I can do it off the dog because I know the dog and the person. So how would this work on your regular walk? Dogs behind fences. Do your bubble out. Make sure the dog is following you without food with your bubble out. They're trying to avoid, trying to keep it together. Do a few passes without food to calm them down. Be a part of that with them. You do bubble outs or maybe cross the street. Do let's go work, pause and sit. Once your dog reaches a point where they legitimately are just like, this sucks, but I'm going to tolerate it, but it stinks. Then you do this type of work. Go on the other side of the fence with the dog barking, and you just move backwards several steps. Walk towards the fence, move back several steps. Be at enough of a distance to where your dog will still take food, and never do it directly in front of the fence with the barking dog.